І сьогодні я рада вас вітати на такому чудовому івенті. Сьогодні в нас буде презентація перформансу Celebration Service, який відбувається за підтримки посольства США. І сьогодні, власне, ви більше дізнаєтеся про цей перформанс, і в рамках фестивалю Лінкольн-центру 2017 він відбудеться, якщо не помиляюсь, 9 вересня, так, о 7 годині. І сьогодні у нас є гості, і це режисер та вокаліст Том Богдан, а також хореограф Еллісон Істер, які є представниками Мередіт Монк, і також The House Foundation for the Art, і вони є безпосередніми учасниками ансамблю Мередіт Монк, та також з нами сьогодні Ольга Приходько, яка є керівником вокального ансамблю Альтер Раціо. Тому вітаємо спікерів, і я їм передаю слово, вони вже вам більше будуть розповідати про сам проект.
Доброго дня, ми раді, що ви зацікавилися цією подією. І, власне, от наша сьогоднішня зустріч буде присвячена розмові про Мередіт Монк, про її мистецтво, творчість та саме, власне, про проект. Як нам працюється разом з американськими гостями, як взагалі відбувається робота, і, власне, що ви побачите на самому концерті 9 вересня. Я думаю, ми почнемо в досить вільній такій формі, будемо сьогодні спілкуватися. Спочатку Том та Еллісон розкажуть трошки взагалі про Мередіт Монк. Я думаю, що всі, хто прийшли сьогодні, вони, власне, знають, хто така Мередіт Монк і більше. Але все одно для тих глядачів, які, наприклад, нас можуть онлайн дивитися і зацікавлені події, але мають таке дуже поверхневе уявлення про її творчість, Том трошки розповість і, власне, розповість про принципи її роботи. Далі ми поговоримо про, взагалі, власне, перформанс, що це таке, з якої причини написаний, власне, що відбувається, як проходить підготовка. А далі, я думаю, ми можемо вільно з вами поспілкуватися, якісь питання задати нашим гостям. Власне, ми будемо сьогодні двомовна зустріч, я думаю, що це не проблема, так? Якщо ми будемо спілкуватися двома мовами, українською, англійською, я думаю, це буде цікаво. Okay, Tom, you can start.
I can start.
Talk, yes, about Meredith.
Are you familiar with Meredith Monk's work? Most of you? Yeah. So Allison has worked with Meredith since when?
I started working with Meredith in 1985. She and I went to the same college. And when I was a senior, my last year at college, I wanted to bring her in as one of the illustrious alumni from Sarah Lawrence, where we went to school. And I called her office and they said, well, she's working and she's touring and she can't come and teach, but she's having an audition. And you and several of the other people can come to the audition. And so that actually wasn't my first meeting with Meredith. I'd studied her work in school as part of my education and seen films of her work. And at another time I saw specimen films.
Live.
Live.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was how I came to work with her. So I've been working with her since 1985. And I've created original roles in maybe 10 different works, and toured and taught her works quite a lot now, especially with you. But I came to it as someone who was really a dancer, but I also sang. And I sang quite seriously, but I thought of myself more as a dancer. And I was so surprised to find someone who was really using dance in the way I'd been trained and using classical music in a way I'd been trained, but taking them further, sort of expanding the range of what's possible. So it's very exciting for me to come to know her work and to work with her personally and to see how she goes about things.
And I started working with Meredith Monk in 1991. Previous to that, I was a traditional singer. I sang in opera, I sang in oratorio, I sang concert, classical literature. And Meredith was making an opera, Atlas. and I had worked with Houston Grand Opera. And at the same time, I started doing unusual music as well. And they called me and said, you must audition for this person because she needs versatile performers. She doesn't want just someone who sings Tosca. She said that's not enough for her music. So I was singing backup music for pop singers like Judy Collins and James Taylor. So I knew pop music, and I was doing cabaret shows and things. So I went and I auditioned for Meredith, and that's when I met Allison in 1990. And the opera was presented in 91. So for me, it was a different experience because Meredith is an interdisciplinary creator. So it was very important that she had someone who could sing. So when she cast this piece, there were 20 people, 1/3 of which were opera singers who could dance and could act. And 1/3 were dancers who could sing and act, and 1/3 were actors who could dance and sing. So I was cast as an opera singer, but working with Meredith changed my life because we would go into a rehearsal and she would play world music, right? She would play Egyptian music, or she would play Filipino music, and she would play Indian music. And she'd say, this is the world. She said, not just Bach or Handel. She said, music is very big. And the other thing that was different working with Meredith was that we had bits of written information and we had motifs. So I would learn my motif, but we all learned everything together. And everything we learned was also learned in the body. So as I'm working with Alto these are amazing, fabulous singers, but they're not used to somatizing, using somatic. So when I teach Meredith's music, I make people do things with their bodies to remember the music. Because when we learned the music, we learned it through our whole body. And so like Allison, I was fortunate enough to be in 10 pieces, 10 new works. And always Meredith, when she makes a work on a group, she makes a piece for you. She also composed a piece for me called New York Requiem. In the 90s, many of my friends were dying of AIDS. So she wrote a piece that I performed many, many places called New York Requiem to remember the people who in America died of AIDS. I have become very instrumental in teaching this piece. Meredith's vision for a celebration service was to make a piece that celebrated all people. It was commissioned by Union Theological Seminary in New York City, which is an alternative seminary where they don't only have Christian belief, but they teach many different religious beliefs. So when Meredith made this piece, she selected text from the Buddhist text. There's Zen poems, Chinese poems, there's Jewish text, there's Christian text, Native American text. There is a dance in the middle that Allison is teaching, because she also knows that all people, I'm sure in Ukraine, there must be folk dance, right?
Hotek? Is that Hopek? Hopek, yes.
So every country has a folk dance. So Meredith, we made a folk dance for this piece. A little crazy like Meredith's things. It wasn't not a typical folk dance. But this is a folk dance that is about the big community of people. Mm-hmm. And Allison is teaching that to 10 very fine Ukrainian dancers. The other thing is that Meredith used music that goes beyond thought. So some of the music is from the ringing place. So some of the music is very meditative in the piece. So you can just sit there and hear unusual sounds and maybe expand and go somewhere in your mind.
I think it's important to say that often when Meredith is teaching music, she did not notate it first. She would have maybe a little scrap of notation, and she would teach you by ear or have you learn something, and then we'd sing it all together, and then she'd say, you, why don't you sing that part, and you can change the time a little bit or repeat some notes. And that often the notes, there would be no lyrics. There'd be no words at all. There would be different sounds, yamananea, which it doesn't mean anything in English. I don't think it means anything in Ukrainian. You know, so we would have sounds that we would make. And I always found it very interesting to be singing those kinds of sounds. She was trying to go past language or through language to things that connect people. I always feel like language, especially not speaking Ukrainian and being here, language is something that separates people. And if you can get sort of away from language to a more direct kind of communication, I think that's something that really interested her, that has always really interested her. Not to be bound by one language or the other language, but to try and get past that to something that connects people. I just want to make sure that got it.
Yeah, no, I think that's very important to Meredith's music. In the opera Atlas, which is 2.5 hours long or 3 hours long.
3 acts.
There are 10 words. In the whole opera, there are 10 words. The other pieces are sounds. And one of the other things that Meredith has always experimented with, and I think it's because she was also always a dancer, is she realized that the body can move in different ways. So she realized that the voice can move in different ways. So there are things like, I asked Olga before I came, I said, well, which of the men sing in falsetto? Which of the men sing high? And she said, oh, none of them can sing that. She asked them. So the first thing when I went there, I had them do an exercise where the men had to go, oh, and make strange sounds. Now some of the men are singing very high. So I think Meredith has an expansive vision of sounds aren't just beautiful sounds. I think there are beautiful sounds in the piece.
Absolutely.
Very, very beautiful vocal sounds. Oh, very simple sounds, but then there are sounds like so other sounds too, right? And
non-traditional.
Non-traditional. And the singers are enjoying doing this now. In the beginning it was like, and that's how I was when I first worked with Meredith. I said, but the language has grown. My language has grown. And when Meredith made this piece, she envisioned it going all over the world. So we've done it in America, several different places. And Allison and I have taught it in the Philippines. We taught it in Budapest. I taught it in Brazil without the dance, because I can't teach the dance. And so we are very happy that it's being done in the Ukraine. Meredith is very, very happy that celebration service is being done here. And there are plans maybe for the next place would be in London to be done. But she would like it to be done all over the world, this piece, because she really wants it to be a spiritual experience for all people to have.
Так, важливо сказати, що цей твір був написаний перед настанням третього тисячоліття, власне, от напередодні, і він був замовлений, як Том вже сказав, чи не казав, він теологічну семінарію, власне, от для того, щоб це об'єднати дуже різних людей з національності, релігії. І, власне, у цьому є і ідея такого поєднання всіх celebration diversity, так? Власне, оця от фраза сьогодні дуже актуальна, і в цьому творі так само. І те, що цей твір вже трошечки подорожував світом, і сьогодні він в Києві, це так само дуже важливий момент, і цікавий, і якби важливий момент ще в тому, що ми можемо поспілкуватись, поєднати різні традиції, музичні, виконавські традиції. Власне, такий вільний, дуже вільний стиль американської музики і, власне, самої Мередіт Монк, позбавлений будь-яких кордонів, тобто такої от зосередженості на одному стилі. І це допомагає нам побачити з іншого боку, власне, і нашу традицію, і академічну музику, і познайомитись з американською, з іншою традицією, от виконавською, музичною. І це дуже класний досвід. І я думаю, в принципі, зараз, мабуть, ми можемо вже перейти до запитань. Я думаю, що вам буде цікаво щось запитати, вже знаючи, про що власне йде мова, і хто така Мередіт, і як взагалі відбувається процес. Тому якщо є якісь питання, будь ласка, задавайте або українською, або англійською.
Оля.
Я скажу, що це Юлія Вашина, куратор Гогольфесту, власне, за допомогою якої і відбувається ця от і зустріч, і взагалі весь проект, тому, будь ласка.
Дякую, але я просто хочу поставити запитання не як куратор, просто як слухач, і як музикант. Мені цікаво, чи достатньо, таке запитання, чи достатньо цих зустрічей впродовж тижня для того, щоб ви продовжували цю традицію і змогли в Україні і надалі робити у цій традиції наступні твори, мабуть. Може навіть не Мередіт Монк, може Мередіт Монк, це вже як ми у майбутньому домовимось, але чи вистачає цього досвіду для того, щоб опанувати цю традицію і вже нести в світ, як то кажуть?
Так, Юля, ти можеш сказати, запитати сама.
I just ask for Olga and her ensemble. It's enough rehearsal for you, with you. It's enough experience with
Standard vocal techniques.
Yes,
and tradition of this.
Because I'm like musician, yes. For me, it's interesting. Oh, it's not too much time. Yes, only 1 week. Maybe our ensemble needs a lot of time. Or not. You think it's good level?
The ensemble is amazing. They're fantastic. It took a little bit of time to keep them relaxed. So I did some strange improvisation exercises in the beginning. I said, I'll make us all act a little funny. And
I can talk about
yes.
this.
If you'd like, we can do a little one now. So come,
Yes.
you come, Julia, and
yes,
come.
Stand.
We stand. So,
I think some people
sometimes, sometimes we have to get to be like children. Otherwise, our brain is too. But I think that we can imitate each other, right? We can imitate. I can do something, and then everybody can do it. All right. So. The first exercise I did with them is I had them say their name, and I made them do a physical gesture with their name and a vocal gesture, and it was unusual. So I will do it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of us will do it. And how it is that one person I will go first, and I will do something and make a sound of my name, then everybody will repeat it. Okay? So, Tom. Okay, everybody together, together. Good.
So beautiful.
Саша.
Юрий. Юрий.
Юнона.
Юнона. Антон. Антон.
Стейсі. Олеся. Надія.
Me, but I'm without voice, no?
Okay. So we're going to do another exercise. And this one is just to let us experiment more with a vocal extended technique, although we stretched, right? So this one we call creatures. What's the word for a creature? Not an animal, a creature. So,
Створіння.
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 she's better than me.
Створіння.
So I will be a creature, okay, with my own, and then everybody will be that creature with me. And then I will pick people to make creatures, okay? So my creature is going to be... Everybody. Good. Any kind. Any kind of creature you want. Anything.
We sometimes say, first thought, best thought.
I don't know.
Who wants to make one up? Wants to be a creature? Go. Somebody else in the back. Come, somebody. Andrew. Creature, make up a creature. Again? Again? Who wants to? Good, everybody. Somebody else? Good. Everybody? So,
Now, don't you feel like we know each other a little bit better now?
so to make some of the sounds that Meredith's music indicates is not so foreign. If we let go and just follow, and do what the other person does, then it gets easier. And what I think for the young creative mind, it's very important to be open-minded and to try things and not to feel, this is very hard because all of us are like, what will you think of me, right? But it's not so hard to try extended vocal technique. So the ensemble is going to be very good.
Я хочу сказати, от ті речі, які ми зараз робили, трошки здаються дивними, і ми не знаємо, що очікувати так в результаті, що це за вистава буде або що. Але насправді такі речі допомагають звільнитися від, ну, якби від таких академічної такої стисненості. От. І всі виконавці і представники ансамблю Мередіт Монк мають дуже якісну академічну освіту. Власне, вони є професіоналами дійсно в своїй справі, музиканти, танцори, так само, як і наш ансамбль, з якісною академічною освітою. Але такі речі допомагають трошки пізнати інакше свій голос, свої можливості свого тіла, акторські якісь такі моменти в собі відкрити. Це допомагає просто звільнитися, відкритися і, власне, спробувати щось нове. От що цікаво в цьому проєкті, що співаки, власне, ну, майже весь спектакль, він побудований на, це музичний спектакль, власне, на співі. Але цікаво, що вони не тільки співають, як ми звикли до цього, так, ансамбль або хор, це постійно така картинка або нібито фотографія, співаки, які просто нерухомі і відкривають рота, так, щось відбувається. Ні, це абсолютно інше вид мистецтва, де не буває, якби, мовчазних танцівників або нерухомих музикантів, нерухомих співаків. Вони постійно в русі. Власне, от своїми тілами кожен співак, ансамбль створюють, вони є декораціями, вони є, власне, частиною сценографії, можна сказати, навіть так. І кожен музичний мотив, він повністю відтворюється мовою тіла. Тобто тут не можна від'єднати мову, спів, музичні якісь мотиви від мови рухів, мови тіла. От, і це важливий момент. Тому, звичайно, такі от вправи, вони допомагають трошки розслабитись дуже таким суворим виконавцям, які звикли, які працюють в філармонії, в театрах академічних, тобто вони звикли до зовсім іншої традиції. От, як Том на початку казав, що він співав там, це не Тоска, так, опера Пуччіні, це абсолютно інший світ. І от, власне, це допомагає нам пізнати себе, пізнати більше, зрозуміти різноманітність музики. Вона не тільки, музика це не тільки Бах, про що знову ж таки казав Бах. До речі, Бах так само казав, що музика це не тільки академічне мистецтво. Це, власне, і, наприклад, якісь там ритуальні танок племені десь в Папуа-Новій Гвінеї, це так само музика. І, власне, такі трошки алюзії будуть, вони, в принципі, є в цьому творі. От алюзії до якихось племенних ритуальних танців, або це абсолютно, іноді відчуваємо, що це абсолютно традиційний протестантський хорал, наприклад, звучить так, або взагалі щось неймовірне, це якісь звуки природи, чи це звуки абсолютно іншого світу. Ну, тобто дуже палітра музичних, палітра звуків не тільки в музичних традиційних для нашого вуха параметрах буде. Тому важливо, якби, налаштуватися от на цю от абсолютно іншу хвилю і от, власне, відчути оці, наприклад, вправа з creature, да? Вона допомагає, так, створіння, вправа створіння. Вона допомагає, от, наприклад, академічним співакам, які дуже зосереджені на там здоров'ї свого голосу, тобто вони дуже себе бережуть, вони співають тільки таку музику, а не таку, це важливий такий нюанс. Це допомагає розслабитися і відчути нові можливості свого голосу, що я можу не лише от так, як в мене навчили в консерваторії, я можу ще щось більше показати. Я можу своїм голосом відтворити якісь, щось нове, власне, оце от створіння, так? Показати якісь нові грані, і це може бути цікаво і взагалі захоплююче. Тому, власне, ця робота з Томом дуже цікава, і я думаю, що такого перформансу, як Celebration Service, в Києві ще не доводилося робити і відтворювати в таких, тим більше в таких масштабах. Так, навіть в Україні, тому що ми трошки вже знайомі з музикою Мередіт Монк, ми з ансамблем вже 2 роки тому виконували «Атлас», про який казав Том, частину лише. І зараз у нас є можливість повноцінно зробити таку постановку. Це буде, до речі, сценографію, відео від Джейн робить Дмитро Костюмінський та Аліна Федотова. Власне, Дмитро дуже відомий і режисер, і сценограф, тому це цікава така копродукція з Мередіт, тому що це все обговорюється, це все створюється зараз, і будуть якісь такі нові цікаві речі вже на самій виставі. Прошу.
Could I ask you in English?
Yes, of course.
I want to ask you maybe more as teachers, not as performers. So I think that, like Ukrainian public, not maybe not all the Ukrainian, but I feel like when working with European, for example, people, they're more open. So for example, if you give this exercise, maybe they will be more, relaxed. And in Ukraine, I feel we're a little bit tensed and not so, so how you handle with it?
Just take a little more time. Just a little more time. Because if you trust me, after a day, you will trust me more.
About time you mean days.
Yes, but I think when I came to the rehearsal, everyone was a little wary of me, and within an hour, they were willing to expand and try different things.
But maybe what special you say or do with them?
Well, I don't know. I think we all have to find some way of relating with one another, right? We have to gain trust. We have to.
For me also, I think there's something inherently playful in exploration. That not that the work itself is childlike, but the act of exploring new things. If you walk by a playground, children do all kinds of movement, and they make all kinds of sounds. And it's sort of you're supposed to be an adult now. It's something societal that says, no, only out of all these possible things, these are the ones that you can do. These are the only ones. This is the way you can act. This is the way you can stand. That there's something exterior to people that's narrowing the possibilities. And that if you provide a space where, no, all of those choices again, they're possible again. People remember. They remember that feeling of being 3 or 4 and just trying. That came into my head, I'm going to do that. It's like everybody has it in them somewhere. And I just think you have to remind them.
And the other thing is that if you were to teach a class and do improvisation exercises, the people that would come would want to do that. They may be afraid. I'm always afraid for something new. I'm like, ooh. I'm always like that. But they would come because they want to. And I don't care whether this is in Germany or in France or in Italy, the resistance ratio is always the same. When I teach in a college in America, in Bennington College. So it's a small college, most of the people are familiar with me. but I had to go teach this piece in another university, Syracuse University. It was very difficult in the beginning because the people were like, they didn't trust me. You know, I said, why are you here? You want to learn the piece? Then we must communicate. We must begin to trust one another. And luckily, Meredith's music, and I'm assuming her movement for you, is engaging. After a little bit of time, it becomes playful. It becomes, you become distracted and begin to just do the activity.
Or distracted from your preconceived.
Right, just from the mind, always.
Excuse me, I just wanted to say to you, like, about your performance. You asked the audience, what would you think of me? Like, firstly, when you started to make these movements. I think that it doesn't, people are afraid that these movements and sounds will make them look silly, less serious, and less smart. But you show us the example, and I think all the Western civilization, they show the example that the range of movements and range of your maybe even thoughts and words doesn't make you feel and look less qualified or less educated. And when people see the example of you, for example, you sit in front of us, like tell us very good, very intelligent things, and then you make the noises of an elephant. And then you sit again and tell us the same thing. It gives the example for like Ukrainian people and all our nation that these our freedom doesn't make us look less valuable, even more valuable because of the appreciation of this range. So thank you for that.
I think everything outside of our personal experience is challenging. Because it's different. I was teaching in India last winter. I was teaching young people. You think young people would just go, ah! No, it took a while for me to gain trust with these young people. Because in the one piece we do, I have to teach them to go, ba-da-ba-de, ba-da-de, ba-da-ba-de, ba-da. They're like this, the kids. But within 2 days, all through the school, everyone is ba-da-ba-de, all the time. But they didn't trust me either, the little Indian children. But after a while, we do trust one another.
Yes, because sometimes people have needed time for relax.
Time is very important to trust. It is true. It takes.
Because a lot of people cost.
All of us.
Yes.
You know, all of us. If it's different, I don't know. You know, food. Do I want to eat borscht? Yes. But something different to eat, you know? Something different to hear. When we first performed Atlas in Houston Grand Opera, which is, I'm sure, like the big opera house in Kiev, many wealthy people who go because you must go to the opera. So they thought they were going to hear Tosca or La Boheme, and they hear some strange things. And they don't know what they're hearing. So at the intermission, 1/3 of the people left. They didn't know what this was. It was too unusual for them. But the 2/3 that remained, they said, oh, how beautiful, how exciting, something new. It was like a new, wonderful experience.
What could you recommend for people how to pursue the new different things, like in general in life? You said when you first met Meredith Monk, you were also surprised and a little bit closed. So how would you recommend for Ukrainians and people in general to see the to trust the difference, to trust some strange things?
I would say come to celebration service, come to the performance, sit there for 1 hour and 10 minutes. That's all. It's 1 hour and 10 minutes. You know, I could sit here and fall asleep for 1 hour and 10 minutes and just see what you experience. And if you don't like it, you go and you have an ice cream or something, right? But I bet there will be things that will intrigue you, because there are some very amazing sounds. The shingways, Earth Seen from Above is very amazing. This piece, Meredith imagined a bunch of bells. She imagined it being in a monastery in Tibet or something. So this piece, everybody is a bell, right?
There's a melody.
And moving like a bells also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So after a while, this may be unusual, and then after a while it's, oh, this is quite beautiful. It's quite beautiful. I think I like this. So one must expose themselves. You know, yes.
Well, the other thing I've also found is often I'll see a piece twice. That I'll go the first time, and the first time I look at it, part of me is like I have, however it happens, it's hard to go to something completely open. You always have an idea of what you think it's going to be. You know, like your imagination just runs into a void and fills it up with something. And then you see the piece, and there's this shock that, oh, it's this, actually. It's this other thing. And then I find if I go and see it again, I'm expecting something more in tune with what it is. And I can see what's there better. I don't know if you've also, if you read a book twice, you know, the first time you're reading it to find out what's going to happen to these people. And then the second time, you can see sort of how the story is told, or how it's made, or how the things go together, and how something that happens in the very end, it's sort of set up over here in a certain way. That often just seeing something more than once can also help you to take in what's there.
Thank you.
I think it's also important culturally for us as thinking people to experience what is contemporary and new. As a young musician, I knew Renaissance music, I knew Handel, I knew Bach. The first time I heard Stravinsky, I was like, what is this? You know, when Stravinsky was played in Paris for the first time, the people left.
Scandal.
And what's incredible, I love Stravinsky, you know, but the first time, so I would go to if you have a museum of contemporary art, I would go to that museum and see what's there. If you have modern dance, I would go and look and experience it and not prejudge what it's supposed to be. And you may find something that you like.
Meredith also has a lot of recordings. She's made a lot of recordings through ECM. They're available. You can look online. You can find even on YouTube. There are lots of short clips of her work, which might help you to choose which recording you want to buy first or something like that. If you look, there's a lot of her work out there that you can see before, after the performance.
Yeah, or you might want to look on YouTube and see some Meredith work before you come to celebration service and just begin to have a different experience.
Так, я хочу зробити маленький анонс. Я думаю, у вас буде можливість так само отримати цей інший досвід, тому що у нас цей перформанс, власне, передбачає такий невеличкий інтерактив з аудиторією. Це частина, власне, перформансу, тому це буде дуже незвично і цікаво, і, власне, зовсім не так, як на академічних концертах, тому запрошую вас і ваших друзів. Я думаю, це буде зовсім інший досвід. Так, дійсно. Це відбуватиметься в рамках Гоголь-фесту 9 вересня о 19 годині в 9-му павільйоні. Так, тому всіх запрошуємо, і я думаю, це буде дуже цікаво, дуже незвично. Так. Тому, якщо є якісь ще питання, ми можемо так. Андрій, будь ласка. дуже.
Просто такого рода, очень многие перформативные практики, они предполагают в основе своей исследовательский лабораторный процесс. И при этом, грубо говоря, игнорируется зрелищность, да, результата театральных постановках. Вот насколько для самой Мередит и для ее команды важна зрелищность перформанса и по приоритетности, на каком месте это аспект находится.
Так, це дуже складно перекласти англійською.
Зрелищність.
Andrew, it should be entertaining. It's very important for the audience. Some effects for audience. Is it important for Meredith, or only working in a group, in your group experience, working experience, or audience also is?
So the question is if it's important for Meredith to have the performances so people would be like entertained, visually entertained. They would
Like a show, yeah,
like,
making
yes, like
show
a show.
or making.
I think Meredith is more involved in answering questions. She's always searching inside. She's facile. She could make work very quickly because she has a command of form, but she works very slowly. She is always asking questions. Why am I doing this? Why am I making this? So ultimately, she hopes that the audience will be engaged and appreciate, and that the audience's mind will also begin to ask questions. But I think she's much more involved in making the work rather than making the spectacle.
Я думаю, що на це питання можна відповісти таким чином, вже попрацювавши з Томом і маючи певний досвід. Так, дійсно, Мередіт працює як справжній митець. Кожен митець, власне, не працює на публіку, він працює для власного, можна сказати, самовдосконалення, якогось пошуку питань, так. Але є спеціальна команда навколо Мередіт, яка, власне, і робить з її оцих от відповідей на власні питання, робить дійсно виставу, яка, власне, залучає, яка, ну, і є цим шоу, але в хорошому сенсі цього слова. Тому це не залишається лише лабораторною роботою, тобто таким от, якби, пошуками, якимось експериментами. Експерименти, вони відбуваються під час репетиційної роботи, під час підготовки, під час написання творів, як ви вже зрозуміли, твори, вони народжуються в безпосередньому спілкуванні з учасниками. Тобто вони пишуться от під час цієї репетиційної роботи. А власне вже результат закріплений, тобто це і є справжня така вистава, шоу, над яким працюють велика кількість людей, в тому числі і сценографи, хореографи і так далі. Тому, власне, така робота і відбувається зараз, от, на даний момент. Кожен займається своєю роботою, сценограф, світло і музиканти от, працюють на результат, який відбудеться 9 числа. Тому я думаю, в принципі,
could I ask? Yeah. Okay. That I found she thinks about the audience and the audience reaction, but that she's trying to notice things that are happening in the world between people, and she's trying to address that in some way. That it's not a sort of let me, you know, distract you and have a good time for several minutes, though we may have a great time in each other's company. It's she's really trying to get to some deeper level of how people can connect and deal with some of, I think, the larger issues in life. Deal with loss or impermanence or
Mercy, kindness.
Yeah.
How people treat each other. How we hurt each other, how we are kind to each other. So she asks these questions.
Yeah. Or how we get isolated and separated, and you know, everybody on their phone, or you know, sort of what could the antidote to that be? That she thinks about the audience in those terms.
Так, я думаю, в принципі, більш ніж зрозуміло. І я думаю, на цьому можна завершити нашу зустріч. Всім дякую за увагу і особливо нашим доповідачам. І американському дому за те, що нас запросили і зробили можливі цю зустріч. Дякую.
Дякую.
So, one last thing. Olga and her husband took me to a